The story of the British Empire begins on a small island in northwest Europe, long before it became the most powerful empire the world had ever seen. In the late 1500s, England was not yet a global force. It was a nation looking for identity, surrounded by stronger rivals like Spain, Portugal, and France. But a new age was beginning, a time of exploration, ocean voyages, and the discovery of distant lands. English sailors, driven by ambition and curiosity, crossed the Atlantic and the Indian Ocean in search of wealth and trade. What they found would change the course of world history. Small settlements in North America and the Caribbean became the beginnings of an empire. Slowly, trading posts turned into colonies, and colonies turned into stepping stones for expansion. As the 1600s unfolded, something gave England a unique advantage: the sea. The English navy, strengthened by Queen Elizabeth's reforms and later by powerful monarchs, became the shield and sword of the empire. With it, England defeated Spanish fleets, competed with the Dutch, and established itself as a maritime giant. Wherever British ships sailed, they carried guns, goods, and influence. The sea was the empire's highway, connecting London to Africa, Asia, and the Americas. Sugar, cotton, tobacco, and spices poured into British ports, bringing immense wealth. But this wealth came with a dark cost. The empire was entangled in the transatlantic slave trade, sending millions of Africans into slavery across the Americas. The profits helped build British cities, industries, and institutions, while the human suffering left a wound that history will never forget. By the early 1700s, Britain had emerged from its European rivalries stronger than ever. The Union of England and Scotland in 1707 created Great Britain, and soon the empire expanded aggressively. Battles fought on distant soil determined the fate of continents. The Seven Years' War in the mid-1700s was a turning point, giving Britain control of vast territories, including large parts of India and Canada. The empire was no longer a scattered group of colonies. It was now a global force. But with great power came great challenges. In the American colonies, resentment grew: taxes, lack of representation, and strict British policies fueled a revolution. When the 13 colonies broke free in 1776, it was a humiliating loss for Britain. Many believed the empire's best days were over. Yet surprisingly, the empire adapted and grew even larger in the years that followed. The 1800s marked the height of British strength. The Industrial Revolution transformed Britain from an agricultural nation into the world's leading industrial powerhouse. Steam engines, railways, factories, and technological innovations allowed Britain to produce more goods than ever before. The empire became both a market for British products and a source of raw materials. India, often called the jewel in the crown, played a central role. Through the East India Company, Britain controlled trade, land, and eventually politics across the subcontinent. In Africa, large territories were claimed during the Scramble for Africa, when European powers raced to take control of land and resources. By the end of the 19th century, the British Empire stretched across every continent, covering 1/4 of the world's land and ruling over hundreds of millions of people. The sun literally never set on the British Empire. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming. In many colonies, local populations began to challenge British rule. They demanded rights, representation, and eventually freedom. The empire tried to hold on, but history was moving in a different direction. World War I exposed these weaknesses. Britain relied heavily on its colonies for soldiers, supplies, and support. The war cost millions of lives and drained the empire's finances. The old world order was collapsing. After the war, demands for independence grew louder. Ireland broke away. Movements for self-governance spread across India, Africa, and the Middle East. Still, the British Empire tried to remain a global power. Then came World War II. a conflict that would accelerate the fall. Britain fought bravely, but the war pushed it to the brink. Cities were bombed, industries strained, and the economy collapsed under the weight of the conflict. When the war ended in 1945, Britain was victorious but exhausted. Its empire had become too large to manage, too expensive to maintain, and too morally difficult to justify. Across the world, nations demanded independence. India and Pakistan were the first major countries to gain freedom in 1947, marking the beginning of a domino effect one by one. Countries in Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and the Caribbean won their independence. By the 1970s, the British Empire had effectively ended, yet its legacy remains. English is now a global language. Many legal systems, parliaments, railways, and institutions around the world were shaped by British rule. At the same time, the empire left behind deep wounds, economic imbalances, cultural conflicts, and memories of oppression. Today, Britain is no longer an empire, but a modern nation that works with its former colonies through the Commonwealth, a voluntary association built on cooperation instead of control. The rise and fall of the British Empire is a story of ambition, innovation, conquest, resistance, and transformation. It stands as a reminder that power can shape the world, but it can also fade. No empire, no matter how vast, lasts forever. What remains is the legacy left behind, complex, powerful, and still influencing our world today.